Okay, this is the Darien Parks and Recreation Commission regular meeting, October 16th, 2024. Welcome back to Town Hall after enjoyable 6 months or so down at the paddle hut. It's now paddle season has started. My group actually started tonight, so we turn the hut over to people to have camaraderie and maybe a few beers and such for the winter. And we move back here into this ice box. Anyway, first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from September 18th. I know you went through them.
I had one little thing.
Made one little
Yep.
thing, which it looked like she picked up
Yep.
from the review. Anybody else have any updates or changes? I thought they looked good.
I thought they were good.
Good, good, okay. Is there a motion to approve? Should get it on tape. Okay, Ed. And Mary Louise second. All in favor? Okay, yeah, she does a really nice job.
Crazy.
There.
Come a long way on that one.
Okay, public comment, Kim? You're the only one here. Okay, no public comment. Okay, right through. Okay, next is to discuss and vote on the revised beach chair donation program guidelines and applications. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mention that Jen is sick. I'm just like moving along. Why you brought us up? Why isn't she here? Hi, John. You even in for you. Hey, Jen. She.
Who am I? Oh, that's not me.
No, but you can switch.
No, I was forgetting my name. And I
No, that's okay. So Jen is out sick. I've spoken to her and she's sick enough that I agreed that her not joining us in person was just fine. Just fine. So anyway, so I'm not really motoring along here, forgetting to tell you why the chair is empty, so I apologize for that. Anywho, last month we reviewed the update to the bench and chair donation program that Jen and the team had done some work on cleaning it up. The document was stale and messy, and she's updated the pricing, etc. We talked about it. I'm not aware that we got any public comment or feedback or anything on it. So usually it's our practice. We talk about things, let them set for a cycle, and then proceed to the vote. So I guess first, would there be any further questions or
I think
comments
she
on
did a
it?
great job.
Yeah.
Too, it was very detailed, easy to understand and go through for anyone interested in going through that process.
And then understanding how the pricing works, and it gives us a clear mechanism each year to set the prices based on the 2 times the cost of the bench and then the cost. Okay, so
And then her form was super clear on the plaque wording and everything else, so that's really helpful.
good. Okay, then I'll take a motion to approve.
So
Ed?
moved.
Second, Amy, all in favor? Set a record tonight.
It is possible.
Okay, next, and I think some of you are new since we've talked about this in the past. Oh, hold on, let me just get to the right page. So over in our pear tree dock, and when we do our parks tour, we can certainly show you. But for some number of years, we have allowed our one local commercial fisherman to tie 2 skiffs up to the Pear Tree Point dock, between the dock and the road. And reason really being that his boats are in the harbor and they go out at 5 in the morning, and he doesn't really have any other way to get to them. And really the only other option would be for them to trailer the boats, the little skiff in and out every morning, launch it, and then go out 5 in the morning. So we have accommodated him. But this was approved many years ago. It was supposed to be winter only. Everybody lost sight of it until a few summers ago. Do you remember how long ago? I mean, it was maybe 4 or 5. I don't know,
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like
it's
that. It was
weird.
pre-pandemic.
Do you guys know where it is? It's right near kind of the ramp
Yeah, it's
Where
off
you-
the ramp, yeah.
where you load your.
Does anyone object to it? Like, does the boat club care?
Well, so
Perfect segue.
we lost sight of it. So as you know, as a former director, even before Pam, nobody knew nothing until one summer we did get a complaint because the skiff was left on the inside, blocking a resident who was trying to bring his boat and his family in for the night. So we are like, like, whose boat is this? So anyway, we unraveled the whole thing. Agreed that they could keep the skiffs there, but they absolutely positively have to be on the
Other side.
other side. Like, never ever can they go on the inside. And also, we weren't, for instance, we weren't getting insurance coverage, blah, blah, blah.
Do we get that now?
Yes, we do. So we've tightened it all up, but we have fallen into the practice of renewing it every 6 months to kind of keep it on a short leash. So now we're going into the winter cycle where it's less problematic because nobody else is really using them. We did, however, I brought it here, where is it? We did get one comment / complaint over the summer, mid-July, that a resident just says, I used a boat drop at Pear Tree. There's a boat that essentially lives on the dock, a brown motorboat. I've never seen its owner and is going way over the time that one should need for the drop or drop out. When a car is pulling a boat up, there's often no place to just wait at low tide. It says in a sailboat, which I don't know how you get a sailboat in there, so I'm a little confused about that. But there would be if that boat wasn't constantly parked in the other side of the dock. Is the boat allowed there? I think Jen had responded to him. So I'd say this is the first time we have had a public comment in a few years. I'll also mention that in the last 2 to 3 6-month cycles, we've added to the letter putting the family on notice that we are hopeful to redo the Pear Tree parking lot, and part of that project is rebuilding the boat ramp, which is not at a really good angle, and that if that were to happen, he would lose access, to make him aware of it. So we put him on notice in that. It also.
Sorry, so if
Yes.
we were to approve this, we'd be approving it with the stipulation that we can terminate the approval early if needed for the construction of the boat ramp? Or
This
are
is
we
for
so
6
far into the future that that is not?
This is for 6 months. We wouldn't
Okay.
be starting the project within 6
Yeah.
months. I certainly hope that within 6 months, I know if we're starting the project.
So we're waiting for bid documents.
Yep.
And in fact, I'll check again on that tomorrow.
Yep.
As soon as that bid document's ready, it's supposed to go out.
Right.
And we would have bids in some reasonable time frame. But
Right.
I guess they'd start in the spring once we accept the bid.
Well, probably, well, I don't know, but we talked about doing it starting in the fall because, not to disrupt the beach season, but we could say, you know what, we just gotta get this done.
Let's see.
But we're hopeful. We are hopeful, so we
But we
did,
can also say we approve this provisionally, just in, if we do have a problem, heads up.
Yep.
So it doesn't have to be the full 6 months, it can be the 6 months unless we have an issue.
Just, so have we approved this before, and why is it for this period of time? Or it's come to our attention at this point that we need to put some guardrails on how long he's there? Do we do this every year?
Yes.
we've been doing it every
Approve
6
it
months,
for-
really just to
okay,
keep it on a very
okay.
short leash, especially because there's been a lot going on with Pear Tree and our planning
Mhm.
and wanting to really know where we are to make sure that the insurance gets up to date, et cetera, and to see if, for instance, over the summer, did we have violations and were there, complaints, things of that
Mhm.
nature. So really because it fell out of sight for probably years, Amy, right? That nobody was aware of it, we just
Yeah,
wanted
but
to
we've
make
been
sure.
talking about this for 5 years. and
But
every
now
6
we do
months
talk
just-
about it, but.
We just keep
Okay.
yeah,
kind of re-upping it and talking about it for 5 minutes, and then we just
Yep.
generally say it's fine.
Fine, but the circumstances may change, so.
But he also doesn't rent it, right? He doesn't pay
No.
for it. He
Yeah.
doesn't, insurances, we do have.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's just, he has a special deal. The family's been an important family to Darien, and
Well, we are supporting a local business, right?
we want to
Right.
support local business, and so, but it is a special situation for kind of him only.
Mhm.
Well, if we had 2 people locally who wanted to be commercial
Mhm.
fishermen, then we would be presumably supporting both of them or having to somehow.
I don't know, we
Likely, that would be a
Yeah.
different discussion, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not what the
yeah.
situation is.
Yeah.
But it's not even, he's sort of the only private
Yeah.
Mhm.
entity for anything that works, right?
As far
With
as
our
I
parks.
know.
So,
It's the only one.
as
Yeah.
far as I know. I mean, he's got 2 fishing boats. One of them, I learned through the Coastal Commission, is out of commission at the moment.
Which is not there then. That would not, if it was out of commission, not working, it would not be there.
The fishing boat,
The fishing boats are
Yeah.
I believe the 2 skiffs are still
Okay.
there. In theory, we could say, well, while your fishing boat's not there, take one of the skiffs,
Yeah.
but it's almost November,
Mhm.
so don't
Mhm.
care. It did occur to me, one thing I mentioned, I guess with, I had hurricanes on the brain when I thought of this, I don't know where it occurred, is I was thinking in the letter we should add some language that requires him to remove the skiffs in the event of, within 48 hours, or upon notice that there's a named storm aiming for
That's a
Darien.
good idea.
Because that to me is a circumstance where you could get a lot of people at the boat club who want to very quickly get their boats out of the water, and having anything in the way could be problematic. So I think that would be a fair thing to add, that just that he needs to know that there's a storm coming and those things have to be out of the way so that people can do what they need to do quickly. But other than that, I think at least going through, and this will take us through April 30th, as I said at that time, hopefully we have a really, much better feel of where we are and the timing on Pear Tree. The only, Jen wrote up the proposed resolution format. The only suggestion I would change is it's not actually the fishing boat, it's the skiffs. The fishing boat is,
Is
40
much
feet,
larger,
and
yeah.
it's, wouldn't fit on our little dock, so. Any other questions or comments on that? Just want to give you guys the background, and when we go to Pear Tree,
See it.
we can show you, what we're referring to. It's a funny little spot that most power boats that people would kind of pull in and out wouldn't really fit into.
Did we look into this letter? Did we respond to it? When was that letter?
It was July 25th. Jen, I believe, responded to it.
Okay, and to the author's satisfaction?
She didn't tell me otherwise when we discussed it. Okay. We did, our rules used to completely prohibit this, and after we did this, when we did the rules update, what was that, a year and a half ago? We did tweak the language to accommodate this circumstance.
Yeah.
So it's not a violation of our rules.
I think we should continue to improve it with the proviso for the hurricane.
Okay, so if I can have a motion for the resolution as proposed that reads, Parks and Rec Commission approves the docking of Mr. Freight's for change fishing boat to skiffs at Pear Tree boat launch for the period November 1st, 24 to April 30th, 2025. If I get a motion?
Sure.
Amy,
Second.
Mary Louise, all in favor? Okay, and then Jen will get the letter out, I'll have her make that one update, and the insurance gets updated once a year. I just don't remember off the top of my head if this is the insurance cycle or not, but she'll take care of that. Okay, updates from advisory groups. I guess Janet, I got the update for you unless you heard. The Board of Finance did approve the additional funding for the playground for both the mats and the walkway.
Okay.
And the path, that was approved last night.
Great.
So we are good to go.
Congratulations.
Selectmen had previously approved it, thank you very much. I think this is a great, makes the park, or makes the playground fully accessible, so I think it's terrific. And when I spoke to Jen today, she said she would get the contract going for signature by John and hopefully get the equipment ordered by the end of the month.
Exciting.
So I just gave your update.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for all your group's hard work on this playground.
I will update them. I'm sure they will be very happy to hear.
Yeah, so that was great news, and it was just nice that there was little extra money laying around so we could really do this,
Yeah,
do it right, and not have to cut back some of the pieces of the equipment, because that would have been,
really grateful to the group, the working group, you know. We met like almost like every month, like I don't think we skipped a single meeting, and that was to their credit that they were very engaged, and everyone had really great contributions and input.
I think it's gonna be nice. And that playground even now, it's used, every time I drive by there a lot, and it's, it is an actively, it's not like Cherry, but it is definitely used. So I think that'll be a nice add, and with some new equipment, maybe it'll even take a little pressure off. People might say, well, let me try this one instead of that one, even though it doesn't have quite the feature, I think, for the younger families in particular, with the younger kids. This will be
It's
just,
cleaned up a lot. That new fence that Sandy put in is sharp. That looks
Mhm.
terrific. Made a big difference.
yeah, yeah, that looks nice. That looks really nice. So that just really cleans that area up, so. So that's, unless your group had any updates, but I think we were in holding pattern, waiting for the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are good to go. Mary Louise, do you have anything on invasive? I know we haven't met.
Basically, I met with Jen for an
Mhm.
extensive meeting to talk about a lot of issues.
Mm-hmm.
And she agrees we need a bigger plan for the whole concept of invasives going forward.
Mhm.
And also, I mentioned perhaps the commission considering an outside company coming in to manage the mugwort down at Reed Beach in the dune area,
Mhm.
that not only remove the mugwort, but check on it on a continuing basis over the course of a year to keep it from coming back.
Right, you're talking about the section we did,
Correct,
Although
and
it-
also extending it out the rest of the way.
which, yeah, I'd love to get in the capital budget for next year.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I spoke to Susan Daly 10 days ago. She was pursuing two volunteer paths. One was people who are certified master gardeners have to do so many hours of
Mhm.
volunteer work, and Joanne Gabriel, who's worked on the project with us, was looking into getting weed as sort of like a designated site that if they worked on weeding it, they could get credit for, so I'll have to check with her. And then she was also talking to the scout, the Eagle Scout, who
Yeah.
did the project, to see if he could gather some volunteers to come pull
It's-
some of that.
You can't do it just as a one-off. It
No, I
has to
know.
be continual. And the other thing we chatted about is she was going to reach out to Chris Filmer about him building that bridge connecting the wetland area with the stone bridge and so on, and bringing it to EPC.
Okay,
And she was
In a
gonna.
cherry lawn.
At Cherry Lawn,
Yeah.
yeah,
okay.
yeah, so that's where that is. Moving on to the party at Cherry Lawn.
Oh, the, for the gardeners.
Yes.
Yes,
yes.
sure, yes, let's move on to the gardeners.
Jen and I met with, Jen and Tamara, met with Dorothy and also the chairman for that party, 2 weeks ago, whatever, and really covered all the things that had not been thought about before, like the need to have so many police, and that it was gonna cost some money for that, and possible emergency, post 53, et cetera, and really being more specific as to exactly how many people they really do expect are going to be at this 50-year party. But they did decide on a date, which is June 28th, with a rain date for the 29th. And that's kind of like where that's,
It's moving along.
it's moving along, correct.
50 years, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
That is a big deal.
Okay, thank you.
And, pickleball advisory group, Jim's not here tonight, I don't think anything's happening, I know Jen, unless you know something.
No, I don't know something. I was
Okay.
gonna ask something.
Okay, I know Jen was working with the USTA, also trying to get information on pickleball, she was hoping at her conference last week, the plan was to gather information, she hasn't been back to the office since she got back from the conference, so I don't have an update on where she's.
So I'd like to request, can we put relining one of the Cherry Lawn tennis courts to be multi-use on the agenda for the next meeting?
I think we had wanted to get more of the user information before we did that, especially with the concerns about the parking at Cherry, which we are getting complaints about.
Personally, I would rather put it on the agenda and have the discussion. I kind of feel that when I last was part of the discussion, I was sitting in the audience over there, and you guys did talk about wanting to get some of this data, and that's probably almost, I don't know, many moons ago.
Mhm.
So I kind of feel that if the data's coming, we got it. If it's not coming, we should be able to have our discussion without it. And just like some of the other things that we discussed, like doing the playground at Cherry Lawn or doing the project at the beach, we went with the data that we had, which in some cases was anecdotal. So hopefully Jen has gotten some data together, and look, we may decide to do sort of nothing different, but there are 3 new members on the commission, and I think the public should kind of have the heads up that we're gonna talk about it. I don't know what the normal process is for putting something on the agenda, but that's why I'm making the request to put it on the agenda for the November meeting.
The real problem at Cherry Lawn is the congestion. Tonight, at 5 o'clock, there was no place to park. All the gardening spots were taken. There were 12 cars parked under the pine trees. They were parked on the side. They were parked.
They're not supposed to be parked there.
No,
And
they're
I
not.
wasn't trying to
No,
get, I was not trying to put it on the agenda for tonight, I was.
No, I know.
Yeah.
No.
This has been like ongoing. The congestion,
Was there soccer going on?
no, and there was no baseball. And a lot of it has to do with the new playground.
It's the playground.
It's
Okay.
just jammed everywhere.
Well, we did it without data.
Did what without data?
The playground, we didn't do the traffic study. We just improved the playground.
Yeah, but the
I
playground
don't
was
know
dated,
why-
it was
I don't know
dangerous,
why
we
the
did to.
traffic study was killed, maybe it was in anticipation of that playground, but we need to make sure that's in the budget for this year, and it's not just the traffic and the potential of creation of a one-way loop, but creation of additional parking, and the parking is just completely
Agreed,
insufficient.
and my,
There's room for, we gotta change.
yeah, and again, I'm not trying to like put something on the agenda that isn't, you know, noticed, which is why I was just asking to sort of do it at the next.
Okay, I'll talk to Jen, see where we are.
But can we put it on, regardless of where we are, I would like it to be on the agenda.
I think it's a little bit of a chicken and egg situation. And it's hard to speak about pickleball courts without talking about the whole park and what's going on at the park. We can talk about
I
pickleball, we can all
think-
say we love pickleball.
I would like to put it on the agenda for the next meeting, we talk about it at the next meeting, we get our public comment, and we take a vote.
So then I
don't
propose
think
we
we take a
also.
vote. Same night.
And what are we gonna talk about? If you wanna-
Relining one of the tennis courts at Cherry Lawn as it was before we unlined it. That's what I'd like to talk about at the next meeting.
So, but I think.
I did want to talk about it at this meeting, and I'm new to the commission, right, so I'm not really sure,
Yeah,
the
but
normal
the
process of
discussion
putting
of
things
putting
on
it
the-
on the agenda
yeah.
is also a discussion about whether it's worthy to be put on the agenda vis-à-vis the fact that we have not discussed the traffic issue.
Well, we're talking a lot about
So-
it right now, and I'm only asking to put it on the agenda, and we talked a lot more about the skiff. So
Wouldn't
to
it
me,
be-
it feels like it's worth putting on the agenda.
Well, that's because Jim's out here to make his report, that's the first thing.
I'm not sure that I mean, where we left it was that Jen was working to get information on really all the racket sports and, you know, what's the right number for a community of tennis courts, pickleball courts, paddle tennis courts, and how we rationalize those, address, you know, the concern that we had when we made the decision about the increased traffic in the park, Cherry Lawn, with a new playground, because we did have a playground that it was not unsafe, but it was at end of life for sure. It was 20-year-old plus equipment that was due to be retired. So we didn't just willy-nilly do it, I mean, it was due to be retired.
Right, but eventually, I think, when things are 20 years old, I think the implication is if you don't, replace it before it becomes unsafe,
Yes.
then that becomes a risk. I think that's what was the impetus of.
I'm not, again,
Okay.
I'm only asking, frankly, I didn't think we'd have a discussion. I thought I'd say, can we put this on the agenda? And because I'm on the commission, we put it on the agenda.
I would like to first check with Jen and see where she is, because she's like, I'm well into getting the data, and I'm gonna have it in 1 more month, and I'd rather wait till she has all the data. So let me just see where she is, okay?
And I don't mean to suggest that it's not important to have that discussion. I just want to be able to have a thoughtful, more park global discussion, because it is a part of a larger picture. So it's hard,
Well, I guess I hear you, but, sorry if I can't,
No, go ahead.
yeah,
I
no.
think that makes a lot of sense, but that's not how this commission has acted on anything else at Cherry Lawn. Right, we didn't have a park global discussion about redoing you all didn't have a park global discussion about redoing the playground to cherry lawn.
We had a discussion about this specific issue and said we can't move ahead on relining the tennis courts until we understand the impact that the playground is going to have.
But
And
you
so
did
now-
reline the tennis courts. The
But-
tennis courts were lined for pickleball. They were relined for tennis only.
No, they were temporarily lined as a, hey, let's just, you're looking like that.
No, they were lined. I
They
played
were-
on them.
No, they were temporarily lined in advance of us resurfacing the tennis courts to be tennis courts. And we had a lengthy discussion about whether we were going to turn them into double lines or not.
They were double lined. I played on them.
I'm
And then they
not,
were
I'm not suggesting
unlined.
they weren't.
Yeah, but those were temporary in the sense that, and when you resurface it, that you can no longer change it. So when we had to resurface it was when we had the discussion, the vote about whether or not to remove the temporary lines
I
or to
remember.
permanently put them in.
I
So
think
you're
we're
right.
temporary and permanent are kind of the same thing here because we
No,
can
no, you're right,
yeah.
there were lines on
Yeah.
the court. We viewed them as temporary in our discussion about tennis courts and offering you guys more time, pickleball people, not, I don't mean to look at you, you know,
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
So
I played both.
that's what that was, great.
Played tennis today.
Yeah, I play both too. So, because the park is so congested, we need to look at the whole park to understand what's going on there before we put more things in there.
When we talk about the pickleball lines that were there previously, when we talk temporary, weeks, months, years, how long were they there?
To be honest with you, my recollection is
Like a
that our
year,
former
season?
director had those put down without a discussion or vote of the commission.
That's
So it
correct.
actually never came before the commission, they just
Okay.
appeared.
But as a practical matter, was it months, years, how long were they there?
It was
Oh.
definitely a season.
It was a season for sure, maybe two, maybe fall ends, but I don't remember, maybe it was a year.
And was there any of the issues that we're talking about, parking, how much tennis courts used or don't get used, like, was it an issue that we were aware of?
I would
We
say
didn't
the
get
tennis
to- we
courts
didn't get a
weren't being
chance
as
to
used
talk
as
about
much because, and we didn't really talk because they just went down, but the tennis courts weren't being used as much because they were not in really good condition.
Mhm.
Once we finally got them resurfaced, observationally, we're seeing that they are being used by the tennis players considerably more than they had been before they were repaired, but
And we had.
I'm a little
every-
concerned that we're getting into a
I know,
conversation that is
yeah.
not on.
Which is why I would like to put it on the
agenda.
agenda for the next meeting. So can we put it on the agenda for the next meeting?
I'd like to talk to Jen and see where she is.
Okay, but I would like to put it on the
Okay.
agenda for the next
I hear
meeting,
you.
so can we do it? Like, what's the process of a commissioner putting something on the agenda?
I guess we would, if it was not on the agenda, we would go into new business and vote
But I
whether or
mean,
not
this
we wanted to
agenda
put
that
it
came
on.
out, like, it came together how?
I set the agenda working with our director.
Okay, so I'm requesting,
And that's why I said I would talk to our director,
Yeah.
because I want to know where she is specifically. And honestly, I wanted, would like to have a conversation where we have the most meaningful information possible. So if she's like, yep, I got this, I got that.
okay, but so to be clear, I wanna have the conversation with whatever information we have, not with the most information possible, what we can do in November. I want to be realistic.
Okay, and I'd also like to talk to Jim, because he's in charge of our advisory group, so I think that's fair as well. Okay?
So when will you let me know if it's gonna be on the agenda?
When I work on the agenda, which is usually a week to 10 days before the next meeting.
We should also put a discussion about the traffic study on the agenda, if you put that on.
There's really nothing we can do on the traffic studies, we don't have any money for it. So we would have to wait until, as John said, make sure we get it into the budget for fiscal year 26 is what we're
Given
working
the
on.
traffic, I would entertain a discussion to somehow fund that in the current fiscal year. I forget what the traffic study cost was, $8,000 rings a bell,
I have 25 in my head, but again, I'm going out of memory.
whatever. I think that to Ed's point, if we're gonna get information to support further changes at Cherry Lawn, whether it's just painting courts or something else, that traffic study is gonna be a pretty important data source. So I personally would not wait until next fiscal year. You guys ought to discuss that and actually make an off-budget request.
Okay, if you think that's, I want to be sensitive because I know we're making a fair number of off-budget requests, so.
Is there enough information to have that discussion about the traffic study? Do you have a proposal from previously that we could look at?
We can go pull, I'll have to have
Okay.
Jen pull the information from last year's budget, see if she can piece together where Pam would have gotten that number from,
Okay.
and or have her go out and get it quoted to find out what that would be, but we will make sure also that however Pam proposed it, it's really covering what we want it
Mm-hmm.
to cover, because a traffic study can be a lot of things. It can just be, it can be counting cars. I mean, it can just be a whole lot of different things. Are we really looking for more than a traffic study, like how many cars are there? What's the peak to, are we really looking for an engineering firm to say, how could the parking and roadway be laid out in a more efficient manner? So we have to make sure we know what it is we're really asking for.
Yep.
I'm gonna mention it at the Board of Selectmen meeting on Monday. I think this is urgent.
Okay. But the park is, and Sandy's,
Thanks, John.
our park supervisors, Vanessa, I guess he sourced, it's in the report, some bigger boulders to put around because people are parking under some of those beautiful mature trees, and that's gonna damage their roots, and we're gonna jeopardize the trees, which is something we don't wanna be doing. So that's gonna reduce parking, it's not official parking, but
It's chaos over there.
The playground must be awesome, because
It is.
there's almost no baseball being played at Cherry Lawn. I mean, the
Right.
Little League's numbers are down, and when they do that, they move. We used to not play around, it's just on the other side of town, so, but there's very few baseball games at Cherry Lawn at the moment, the last couple of years. So, the thing that's always, I live in that neighborhood, the thing that's always nuked the traffic is just soccer drop-offs were always the worst moment.
Yeah.
But, if it's just playground, that must be some playground.
It's,
My kids are too old.
you should come over and see it.
Yeah.
It's
I live right there, I
quite
can walk.
something. Yeah,
It's
it's quite
awesome.
something.
or we'll see it on the park store certainly, but it's,
Well, it's super cool. They might not be too old. This is
Maybe we'll go
a
up there.
massive.
When their friends aren't looking.
My kids
Yeah,
are
no, it's-
25, they might play on it.
Yeah.
no, it's wonderful.
It's great.
It's wonderful, it's really fun. Okay, so we will follow up on that. Okay, parks tour, okay, I set out, we had discussed which parks we wanted to attend, to go to on the 26th, which is a week from Saturday. So I, put together a timeline agenda, as we've usually done, just to give everybody a rough idea of what we would be looking for.
My only suggestion with that is that we may wanna, we're starting in Cherry Lawn, then
Mhm.
we go to McGuan, then we go to Tilly, then we go to Reed Beach. It just might make a little bit more sense if we swap Tilly for McGuan, just for the route. Does that make sense?
I'm trying to draw it in my mind.
So you go to Cherry Lawn, then you go to Tilly, then you go over to McGuan, and then you go to Weed and Pear Tree.
Different.
Right, as opposed to
That feels
going McGuan, then back to Tilly, then over to,
Okay,
right?
sure.
Makes sense.
So we'll swap
It's-
those.
Yeah.
It's the same amount of
Slightly
time for
different.
each. Okay, and I tried to leave
Swap
at least,
Tilly and McGuan, is what
Yeah.
you're saying.
Don't you think?
Yeah,
Right?
McGuan, you just drop down Monroe Avenue and you're there.
Right.
and I tried to leave at least 15 minutes in between, because traffic in town on Saturdays is
I think that makes sense.
pretty tough.
Yeah.
We used to be able to do it in more 10 minutes, but I don't think we're gonna be able to do it.
Well, we're not
anymore.
gonna go through town, these are all back, like you won't
Mostly
be on the
on that.
post road, you'll be on.
Yeah.
Lori, do you think you could also dig up those forms that Cara developed?
We're working on that, I know.
Yeah.
We're working on that,
Those
we've
are
gotta
great.
get the rating forms. I had the link that she sent last year to the Survey Monkey, and it worked, and I'd sent it to Jen. but it must have expired now, because now it's not working, so I'm either gonna dig or I'll go back to Cara and see if I have the summary, so we can probably piece it together, but yes,
Okay.
I've been
That would be
talking
helpful.
to Jen, because unless one of you knows how to put together a Survey Monkey and collate it, we're gonna have to get this, I know that's beyond my area of expertise, we're gonna need to get staff to do that as well.
Hardly.
For the next couple of weeks, so I have no experience with Survey Monkey.
What information are we trying to get?
So as we go out to each of the parks, we have like a questionnaire that we then each individually fill in terms of, you know, the different standards we've set for the parks, you know, the condition of the buildings,
I'm sure Cara still has access to
I
it.
bet she
I bet
does.
she does,
Yeah.
but it's the condition of the buildings, it's the, you know, the plantings, so we kind of rate all of the different
Invasives.
adjectives, and it helps us.
Just an assessment
Yeah.
of, you know, what, as we tour it.
It helps us, then as
Have a
we're going
record.
into the budget and capital request season and the operating, say, okay, you know, how much money do we need to tackle this or that, you know, does a building need to be painted, how does this look? You know, are the courts cracked? So it's really going through, now Jen did ask Sandy.
Wait, just to add to that?
Yes.
It's an assessment of each park that we each fill out. And, it's nice to go in advance to the parks, in advance of the tours to the parks, so you can kind of just have a quick look, and then you can have a discussion about it while you're there, because you've already looked at it. But the real purpose of it is to capture your thoughts about specific things, because we're seeing so many parks, and we're gonna have lots of discussion, and then you get home and you're like, okay, that was a great day, it was a beautiful day, and you don't remember, oh gosh, I really needed to, you know, I needed to focus on that, so it really helps us capture thoughts and
Yeah, no,
information. that's-
so,
Yeah, so we used to do it on paper, and then one of our former commission members was like, wait, it's ridiculous, we should do this on paper, I'm gonna put together a survey, which she did for us for 3 years, but now she's,
and you really liked whatever that was?
yes.
So that,
Well, it just made it easier for people to go online and just click, 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 and then we send it to her.
She could reactivate it and
We should
So,
just
Yeah.
share the,
share it.
You
Yeah.
can
Like-
make notes.
so I guess what I'm saying is, I can do
Yes.
the technology part.
okay,
I can do that. But,
Oh,
but what I don't know is what is supposed to go in
Yeah.
there.
right, I get
Yeah,
the
yeah,
questions,
we don't need to
we'll get the
reinvent
questions, but you
it,
know how to
though.
do it,
Yeah.
and then everybody
Perfect.
just goes in after the tour
Sure.
and for each.
Yeah,
If
and
you-
then it
If
collates.
If you either
those
can find a
documents.
copy of
Yep.
last year's, or
Yep.
I would suggest the best way is we call this person and
yeah,
identify.
you
It's
can
still sitting
download
there.
it. and-
Yeah.
But if that doesn't work and it needs to be reconstructed, if you tell me what's supposed to be in there, I can probably figure that out. So-
Yay,
Excellent.
excellent.
Somebody has last year's copy.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know
But
if
it
we
also
would-
helps us when
hard
when we're
copy, yeah.
going to the selectmen or the board of finance,
I always
to
do.
say,
And then I can
you know,
put it-
these
You
are
have-
the
you have a hard
standards
copy.
that we think our park should be
I don't
maintained
have
at.
it anymore.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't
And-
think we have a hard copy at this point.
On our
Got it.
cumulative rating, it doesn't. So anyway, Sandy Rich is gonna join us for the tour, which I
Okay.
think is fantastic.
The whole tour?
Yes, the whole tour, which is great. So, you know, because he's got, you know, he's the mating, and sometimes we can, it's even something we just point something out, and he's like, yeah, okay, I'll take care of that. It's just, like, it's just done. But really to get his perspective, and a lot of times, sometimes we'll get ideas, but he knows what's involved in maintaining something. Well, if you do that, then we can't get the mower in, or, you know, whatever, so he has that perspective of keeping things up. So he'll be joining us, which I think is great. So.
And then Kim joins us and her gang.
Members of the RTM,
There'll be several.
yeah, join us as well, which is nice. And, so usually we hit 5 parks, and we find that's about as much as we can manage, and then people need to get on with their lives. So then what we do is we split up the rest of the parks and ask each member of the commission to go out and visit a few on their own. So we get less ratings on those parks, but at least we get somebody going and looking. So I just took those and whacked them up between everybody. So some of the parks, we have 3 people going because we have a full commission now, which is nice. And some are only 2. But Terry, I think I got you, at least in one case, is I wanted you at Town Hall in Houlihan because
Sure,
you're a baseball guy.
sure.
Then you get Stony
I
Brook.
can do that right after the meeting.
Yes.
So I think you had me down on at least one of them.
Yes.
So because I'm gonna miss the tour,
Yeah.
what is it just sort of like observations, or is it gonna be these questions that are on the survey?
It'll be the
Questions.
questions on
Yeah,
the survey.
Okay.
And picnic.
Yeah, but it's your observation, so if you can get to those two, but then
Yeah,
if you
no
can
problem.
also hit a few of the other major
Sure.
ones on your own, that
Yep.
would be terrific. So I'll work on that and try to get the questions over to you, so we get, because then people, your own visits, you can do kinda whenever. So that is that, okay. Director's report, hopefully you all read
For Baker
Jen's
Park,
report.
I know I'm not assigned to it, but are you thinking like the field too, or, I mean, that's not Parks and Rec.
When I've done,
Right?
well, no, it is, when I've done Baker, I do the whole, I walk the loop in the woods and
Yeah.
back and
Right,
the
okay.
baseball fields and everything, yes,
Oh, okay.
yes, absolutely.
So the baseball field is part of
Oh,
Baker
yeah.
Park, okay.
Oh, yeah, that's us,
I didn't actually know that.
yeah, that's us, it's all us. Okay, director's report, hopefully you all read it. You can tell me if you have any questions, which I may or may not be able to answer, but I did run through it with Jen today. And we've been working on a planting plan along Nearwater Lane, Weed Beach. We're hoping to get it in for this fall. It's really gonna be tight. I'm not sure we're gonna be able to do it. Sandy's been trying to source the different plants that we've selected, working with
The neighbors.
Dan. Well, the neighbors and with Dan.
Dan,
The neighbors, it took them a while, frankly, to get back to us, and they sent sort of a memo of different things that they wanted to recap with us. They did suggest some plants. What they said is, for instance, they didn't really want things like arborvitaes or things that just create a wall. They don't particularly want tall trees along that perimeter, but they're interested in having things that would be sort of bushy and fill in during the summer season, but then lose their leaves in the fall and over the winter, because when the park's not busy, they would just as soon enjoy the view. Some of the plants that they recommended were not natives, which we weren't enthusiastic about. And when we were having these conversations, it was around when the Gardner Center was doing that promotion. Did you all see that? The Replant Darien promotion that the Gardner Center did, and they recommended different trees and bushes. And they were donating 10 trees to Darien, and instead, I think at least 100 plants and bushes were bought, they would donate another 10. So I actually looped Dan Biggs into that information, and he spoke to the Gardner Center, and actually 3 of the 4 bushes that we've selected are from those offerings. And it's a really nice variety, and they turn different colors, and they vary, and they attract pollinators, and they lose their leaves in the fall, and then there's one other that they put in. Unfortunately, Gardner Center is an approved vendor for us, but the plants that they were offering are much smaller than what Dan felt we need. And the bigger ones, they cannot get this
Late in the season.
late in the season, and Sandy's been shopping around and he's having trouble finding them this late in the season. So we may not be able to get them, and we got a 1 to 2 week window before you can get plants in, so.
Right, it's the time right now.
Yeah, so we can't get them right now is the problem, so that may not happen. Jen's gonna try to do a little more research on it when she gets back, hopefully on Monday. But in the meanwhile, they'll do some of the cleaning up of the area, removing some of the invasives and some of the other work that has to be done before the plants can go in anyway. And the staff's gonna do that, working Saturdays to take care of that. So, we're working away, but the devil's always in the details. But, I've got the thing that you guys wanna see after, I've got the names of the plants here, watch it, but it's a nice selection of plants, and I think, a lot of the folks we've heard about that are very interested in making sure that we're putting native plants in the park and things that attract pollinators. I think that will go a long way in terms of using those as well. Okay, so that is what's on that. Baker we talked about. I know Jen gave us some numbers on, beach revenue up again this year. Program registration continues to increase, so we're just seeing, increased revenues from the different, offerings. But I don't have, much more detail than what she gave us here. Any questions, any trying?
Well, we had a pickleball tournament.
We did have a pickleball
Yeah.
tournament.
Joint event.
We did commission a pickleball tournament. My husband came home with a medal. He was very proud of himself. Very, very proud. And I think Susan's husband probably got at least a couple.
I think you got one, I don't know, one.
Paddles up.
Okay, anything else? Nope. Okay. God, this record worse. Okay, my report, I've been spending quite a bit of time with the Great Island Advisory Committee. Key topics right now are.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I just
What?
wanted to note, just because we were talking about pickleball. Pickleball was, this tournament was undersubscribed. Did you see this?
No.
Yeah. And those were ordered. Sorry, I just was reading that.
Great Island. So the townwide survey, I think wrapped up on the 15th, John. I think yesterday was the last day. And
The
I don't know if you
consultants are
heard-
gonna present whatever compilation they're able to pull together for that survey at the GIAC meeting tomorrow night.
tomorrow night, but I heard, last I heard there were over 1,500 responses, so last I'd heard.
I didn't hear the latest count, I'm certain it's more than that.
Yeah, so anyway, so we'll be getting the information and the feedback from our residents on that, at least a preliminary report tomorrow night. We should have met tonight, and they needed at least one more day to try to pull it together
Yeah.
since it closed last night.
Mm-hmm.
The selectmen have approved increased access to the property. As you all know, right now, the access is just the paved area. The bridle trail has actually been open. It's really nice. It's
I
really
was there
very nice.
yesterday.
And the staff did a really great job of chipping that, and that's a great area.
They seem to be doing some seeding. I chatted with the guys for a while. They were digging out part of a plot, and they said they were replanting it or something.
Oh, that's for the
What is-
abatement of the arsenic, probably.
Okay.
There's a whole,
There were big dump trucks there, and it was
Yeah,
quite,
that's
it was
top.
quite busy.
Yeah, that's
That's-
topsoil they're putting over
Top.
certain areas.
Okay.
It's
where the
just
arsenic, with the old
covered,
apple
yeah.
orchard.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, up top.
Yep,
Yeah.
up top.
Just to clarify, what the Board of Selectmen approved was all access to the island, no buildings, that type of thing.
Yeah.
What we did was remanded back to the Great Island Committee so they can set the opening date once the work associated with that, which is potholes, small hazard, signage, all that stuff is up. They set the date and then it will open. Similarly, tomorrow they're going to discuss dog access. It's on their agenda, and let's see what the professionals recommend and what the timing of that is. I have put that, in case they come up with a recommendation, on the Board of Selectmen agenda for the 21st.
In that discussion about the dogs, will there be on leash, off leash discussion?
Don't think there's any off-leash
I'd say there's going to be
discussion.
no chance that we would approve off-leash dogs.
Okay.
So we're working on that. The road widening has been delayed, so it'll be certainly not over this winter, but I would think vehicular traffic will be allowed, but
Just for town employees and contractors and residents.
Is
What
that
about
due to
bikes?
the discussion on the trees?
No bikes yet.
yes.
I have one question. There were some porta potties there. Is that for the workers?
No,
No, that's for people to use. yeah.
People
they're
to
people.
use? Okay.
The problem is the situation with the trees, that's the
that appeal was fine.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
two appeals, right?
Two appeals.
Yeah.
so anyway, but in due course, more access, so people, you know, you have to walk in.
Right,
But much more of the property will be
Okay.
open, soon. So there's a lot of details to work on.
Mhm.
So I'm actually working with another committee member on the signage, and I think we have at least 35 signs. So,
oh my
anyway,
gosh.
there's a lot of area, there's a lot of
There's a
area.
lot, yeah.
There's a lot of area, and
Yeah.
little things you have to note, and
Mm-hmm.
when you get into the insurance guidelines, there's actually a lot of things that just need to
Well,
be
and I
posted.
just want to say thank you for that, because you guys deal with signs and protecting people in public spaces. That's just what we needed for this process, so it was very helpful.
Speaking
don't
of
wanna-
signs, sorry.
Mm.
I forgot to bring this up when we were talking about Baker,
Mhm.
but we had chatted offline about some parks having like no smoking signs,
Mm-hmm.
but others don't.
I will say that spending so much time in the last few weeks looking at signs, reading our insurance carriers' recommendations, whatever, it occurred to me that it's probably time, is another thing I need to talk to Jen about assessing our whole sign situation. We're probably due for a sign review.
Oh, goody.
I know, and signs are tricky because on one hand, we need to notice people, what's what they're to do and not to do. On the other hand, you don't want sign clutter.
Yeah, and you don't want to be wagging your finger about it.
Yeah, so it's tricky, but when you read sort of the requirements that are needed to protect the town, you kind of do have to wag your finger. So it is tricky, but it did occur to me that some of this supporting documentation that was supplied to me to review, that it is probably time we take a look at our signage in the parks.
I think Chris has a nice balance with his signs at Selleck's.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, do go enjoy,
Right,
lots of do's and not so many don'ts.
not so many doubts, but,
Yeah.
so it's a balance, but it did occur to me it's something we probably need to
Mhm.
think about. But things like no smoking, which probably should have a part,
Yeah.
that's something we have
I
to
think
think about. But
especially Baker, I think is, from what someone told me, is getting a reputation of where teenagers go
To smoke.
to do, yeah, either vapes or smokes.
Yeah.
And that, because.
playground
there are a lot
area?
of- Yeah,
Hmm.
and, caretakers are, seeing it. and-
Cigarette butts, it's not paraphernalia. Yeah. Lying around. Yeah.
Well, maybe we can look at that on our tour. on
Yeah,
the
we could be looking at the
26th.
tour and then, yeah, but I think it just occurs to me spending this much time on it that it's time to spend some time on it as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'll work up the sign so it's like, instead of no smoking, this is a smoke-free area, all
Right.
just
But those are the things we have to look
Yeah,
at and choose,
yeah.
you have to choose the
the
language.
language carefully.
Okay.
Coastal Commission, normally they meet the same week because of the holiday, though we're next week, so nothing to report there. Baker was approved. Oh, and I forgot to tell you. Yes, there was even some extra ARPA money, so they were looking around how to spend it. And what has been approved is to replace the backstop back here. Remember, we put that in the budget last year and it didn't make it through, so it was pushed out for next fiscal year, but because there's ARPA money, that was approved to replace this backstop. So,
Excellent.
yeah, so that's good news. We had a little,
Yeah, because
little extra that we
it
weren't.
was looking like it needed.
Yeah, that'll make Cheryl happy.
Yeah.
It was actually expired ARPA money. I was clear with everybody that if you don't spend it or have a commitment to spend it by October 1st, we're gonna take it, and it was more than $500,000. And so part of that, we did a big reallocation, and part of them was bringing forward things that we anticipated for next year, and that was one of the things.
And that was one of
Can we
them.
use, is there anything left for the traffic study?
Yeah, exactly.
Fair point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, OPC hasn't met since we last met, that's next week as well. And we are on the agenda for the selectmen's meeting on Monday night, this coming
Correct.
Monday night, regarding the Wheat Beach extension. Remember last month we had recommended that the selectmen reconsider funding the entire project, so,
Yeah, we will pick that up and refer that to the Board of Finance. No, you're gonna be there, I think Jen's gonna be there, Dan's gonna be there, and I'll be there, of course, obviously. But again, the idea is, I just don't see I don't see a pared back solution being what we want. And they thought about that pretty carefully, and you just look at them and, no, it doesn't work. You kinda have to do it all, so.
anyway, so that will be this coming Monday night. And
What time is it?
7,
So Board of Selectmen 7.
7,
And
it's for a fully virtual meeting.
The full virtual.
Oh, okay.
So that's it. Any new business?
I don't know, it's stunning.
Just in time for
Just
the
in time
adjournment.
for
We're
adjournment.
just about to adjourn. Yeah.
Adjourn.
Yeah.
It's a record then.
It is a record.
Okay,
Playoff baseball.
so nobody had any new business?
No.
No? Okay, then a motion to adjourn.
Would you like to
Adjourn.
adjourn?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Good timing.
There we
remember this for next time.
Okay, we're adjourned?
Yes.
Wow, this is a record.